Okay, hi guys. In today's lesson, we're going to detect the differences between the indefinite past and the imperfect past in Spanish. Okay, we're going to create some sentences so you will understand the differences between them. Okay, so let's start. All right, here's this verb. We have the verb comer, to eat. Okay, let's see the way you have to conjugate this verb. First, in the indefinite past, okay? So the conjugation of this verb to eat in Spanish would be yo comí, which means I ate. Yo comí. Tú comiste, which means you ate. Okay, this is in the indefinite past in Spanish, pasado indefinido. If you want to say he ate, then in the indefinite past in Spanish you have to say él comió. Él comió. To say she ate, you have to say ella comió. Ella comió. To say we ate, in the indefinite past, in Spanish, you have to say nosotros comimos. Nosotros comimos. To say you ate, in the plural form, then you have to say ustedes comieron. Ustedes comieron in Spanish, okay? And then finally, if you want to say they ate, remember in Spanish, you have to say ellos comieron. You have to use the personal pronoun ellos if you're talking about a group of boys, okay? And if you're talking about a group of girls, then you have to say ellas comieron. Instead of ellos, you will use the personal pronoun ellas comieron, okay? So this would be the conjugation in the indefinite past, okay? Now let's see some sentences so you will understand how this works, okay? Here we have this sentence. I ate lots of candies and my stomach hurts. Okay, this is in the indefinite past. When you are talking about the indefinite past, you are talking more of like recent past. Okay, like yesterday, some while ago. You're talking about a recent past. Okay, how to say this in Spanish? You have to say yo comí. This is the way you have to conjugate this verb. Comer, yo comí. This is the indefinite past. Yo comí, I ate. Lots of candies, muchos dulces. Lots of candies, muchos dulces. And my stomach hurts. Y me duele el estómago. Okay, so this is the way you have to conjugate this with a sentence in the indefinite past. Yo comí. Okay, you're talking about a recent past. Now let's see another example with another sentence, okay? You are referring also in this sentence to a recent past, something that happened yesterday, ayer. Ayer means yesterday, okay? So if you want to say, for example, we ate sushi yesterday, you're talking about also a recent past, something that happened a little while ago, like yesterday, okay? Nosotros, we, comimos, ate, sushi, yesterday, ayer. Okay, so if you're talking about a recent past, then you're going to use the indefinite past, okay? Now let's see how you have to conjugate this verb also, but in the imperfect past, pasado imperfecto, okay? The conjugation of this verb, comer, would be yo comía, tú comías, él comía, ella comía, nosotros comíamos, ustedes comían, ellos or ellas comían. Okay, this would be the conjugation of this verb, comer, but in the imperfect past. Okay, now let's see some sentences so you will understand the difference. Okay. For example, if you're talking more of a long while ago past, like some years ago, then you're going to use the imperfect past, okay? Here you have some phrases that will let you be aware that you have to use the imperfect past, okay? For example, in this sentence, you are talking about when you were very little, okay? This sentence says, when I was little, which means cuando yo era pequeño, when I was little, cuando yo era pequeño. Okay, this sentence, it's in the imperfect past. I ate, yo comía, I ate, or remember you also can remove the personal pronoun and simply say comía without the personal pronoun, comía, lots of candies, muchos dulces, okay? Here you're having this phrase, when I was little. If you have this means you're talking about like a long while ago, many years ago. When I was little, then that's a sign you must use the imperfect past, okay? When you have this type of sentences. When I was little, cuando yo era pequeño, comía, okay, long while ago, lots of candies, muchos dulces. Now we have another sentence. In this sentence we have, when he was younger, cuando él era más joven, which means when he was younger, cuando él era más joven, comía, he ate, lots of junky food, mucha comida chatarra. Junky food means comida chatarra. Okay, so if you want to say, when he was younger, he ate a lot of junky food, then in the imperfect past, you have to say, cuando él era más joven, he ate, comía, that's the imperfect past of the verb comer, mucha comida chatarra, lots of junky food. Okay? And now we have this verb to sleep, dormir. And let's see how you have to conjugate this verb in the indefinite past, okay? In Spanish, it would be yo dormí, tú dormiste, él durmió, ella durmió, nosotros dormimos, ustedes durmieron, ellos or ellas durmieron. Okay, this would be the conjugation of this verb, dormir, in the indefinite past, pasado indefinido. Okay, in Spanish. Now let's see some sentences. Here we have the sentence. If you want to say, I slept 8 hours, you're talking about also a recent past, some while ago, 8 hours ago, okay? So if you want to say, I slept 8 hours, then in Spanish you gotta say, yo dormí 8 horas. I slept 8 hours. Yo dormí, this is a conjugation in the indefinite past, according to the personal pronoun I, yo. Yo dormí, I slept, yo dormí 8 horas, 8 hours. Okay, recent past, indefinite past. Now, let's see another sentence. Here we have, he slept all day, which means él durmió todo el día. Okay, also we're talking about a recent past, él durmió todo el día. We're talking about all day, okay? Él durmió todo el día. That would be the conjugation using the indefinite past. And now this is the way you have to conjugate this verb, dormir, in the imperfect past, okay? Yo dormía, tú dormías, él dormía, ella dormía, nosotros dormíamos, ustedes dormían, ellos or ellas dormían, okay? This would be the conjugation in the imperfect past. And remember, you have to use the imperfect past when you're talking about like something that happened a long while ago. And these phrases in pink would tell you and would let you know when to use. If you have this phrase, when I was little, when I was younger, when I was 5 years old or something like that, then you gotta use the imperfect past, okay? Cuando yo era pequeño, when I was little, cuando yo era pequeño, I slept, yo dormía 8 hours, 8 horas. Okay, then you have to use the imperfect past. Cuando yo era pequeño, dormía 8 horas. Okay, now we have this other sentence. When my son was little, which means cuando mi hijo era pequeño, cuando my son, mi hijo, was little, era pequeño, cuando mi hijo era pequeño, he slept, dormía, he slept, dormía all day, todo el día. Okay, you're talking about some years ago, so this means you have to use the imperfect past. When my son was little, cuando mi hijo era pequeño, he slept all day. Dormía todo el día. Now we have the verb to be. The verb to be in Spanish means ser or estar. But first, let's see the way you have to conjugate this verb according to the form ser. Ser in Spanish, okay? To be, ser. And according to this form, this is the way you have to conjugate this verb in the indefinite past, okay? The indefinite past of this verb, ser, would be yo fui, tú fuiste, él fue, ella fue, nosotros fuimos, ustedes fueron, ellos or ellas fueron. Okay, this would be the conjugation of this verb, ser, the verb to be. Now we have these sentences, so you would know how to conjugate this in the indefinite past, okay? So if you want to say, for example, the concert was super cool, then in Spanish you gotta say, el concierto, the concert was, fue, super cool, genial. Okay, you're talking about like you saw the concert 2 hours ago, so then you're talking about a recent past. That's why you're using the indefinite past. El concierto fue genial. The concert was great or super cool, okay? Also, we have these sentences. It was wonderful seeing you. It was wonderful seeing you. So in this way, also in this sentence, you're using the indefinite past. You're saying, fue maravilloso verte. That means it was wonderful seeing you. Fue maravilloso, it was wonderful seeing you. Verte, okay? We're using the indefinite past because you're talking about experiences that happened in a recent past, okay? Now we have this sentence, also in the indefinite past. You are describing how someone was, how someone treated you, okay? In this case, we're talking about a waiter, okay? The waiter was very attentive. The waiter was very rude. The waiter was very cute, okay? If you are describing how someone treated you or how someone was with you in recent past, then you have to use fue, was. Here we have the waiter was very attentive, which means el mesero, the waiter, el mesero was, fue, very attentive, muy atento. Okay? The waiter was very rude. El mesero fue muy grosero. Very rude means muy grosero. If you want to say the waiter was very cute, then you have to say el mesero fue muy lindo. Okay, and in this way you have to use the indefinite past. Now let's see how you have to conjugate this verb, ser, in the imperfect past, okay? Yo era, tú eras, él era, ella era, nosotros éramos, ustedes eran, ellos or ellas eran. Okay, so this would be the conjugation of the verb to be in the form ser in Spanish, okay, in the imperfect past. And let's see some sentences so you will understand when to use it, okay? When you're talking about where someone was from, then you gotta use the imperfect past, okay? Here, you're talking about where the waiter was from. So if you're talking about that, then you have to use the imperfect past. The waiter was from, and then the place. Venezuela, in this case. El mesero, the waiter, was from, era de, and then the place. Venezuela. Okay, so if you're talking about where someone was from, then you gotta use the imperfect past. And now we have also this sentence. You are also describing how someone was, okay? It's not like recent past, it's how someone was like some years ago. So if you're talking about that, then you gotta use the imperfect past. In the other sentence about the waiter, you were saying how someone was in recent past. You use fue. It's recent, like, yeah, I had a dinner and the attention of that waiter was super nice. So when you are describing that, then you have to use fue in a recent past. Then when you're talking about how someone was, but how someone was like some years ago when you knew that person, then you gotta use the imperfect past. And we have this sentence, my brother was very studious, like when he was younger, or I don't know if he's still like that, but I'm talking about when I knew him in that stage, okay? My brother was very studious. To say this, you have to say mi hermano, my brother, mi hermano was, era, very studious, muy estudioso. Okay, you're describing how he was, okay? Mi hermano era muy divertido, very funny, muy divertido. My brother was very funny. Mi hermano era muy divertido. Now, if you want to say my brother was very handsome, then you gotta say mi hermano era muy guapo. Mi hermano era muy guapo. Okay? And you're using the imperfect past. And now, let's see how you have to conjugate this verb, also the verb to be, but in the form estar. Remember, the verb to be in Spanish means ser or estar. And in this way, estar, this is the way you have to conjugate it, okay? So if you're talking about the indefinite past of this verb, estar, the conjugation of this verb in this form, the indefinite past, is like this. Yo estuve, tú estuviste, él estuvo, ella estuvo, nosotros estuvimos, ustedes estuvieron, ellos or ellas estuvieron. Okay, this is the way you have to conjugate this verb, estar, okay, in the indefinite past. And let's see some sentences so you will understand, okay? If you want to say, I was almost all day at the bank. If you want to say this, then you have to use the indefinite past. Yo estuve, this is conjugated in the indefinite past. Yo estuve, I was, yo estuve, almost, casi, all day, todo el día, at the bank, en el banco. Okay? You're talking about also recent past. I was almost all day at the bank. Yo estuve casi todo el día en el banco. Okay? You're talking about recent past, so you have to use the indefinite past. And now we have this sentence. My sister was with me yesterday. Your sister, which means tu hermana, your sister estuvo with me, conmigo, yesterday. Okay, you're talking about also recent past. It happened yesterday, so you have to use the indefinite past. Tu hermana estuvo conmigo ayer. Tu hermana estuvo conmigo ayer. Okay, indefinite past. Now let's see how to conjugate this verb. Estar in the imperfect past, okay? Yo estaba. Tú estabas. Él estaba. Ella estaba. Nosotros estábamos. Ustedes estaban. Ellos or ellas estaban. Okay, so this would be the conjugation of the verb estar, the verb to be in the form estar, using the imperfect past, okay? Now let's see some sentences. All right, here we have this sentence. I was very tired and I fell asleep. Here you're talking about how you were in terms of physically, you know, the mood you had. So if you're talking about that, then that means you gotta use this verb in the imperfect past form. Estaba. I was very tired. I was very stressed. I was very interested. If you're talking about those type of things, then you gotta use this verb, estar, in the imperfect past, estaba. Okay, yo estaba muy cansado y me dormí. I was very tired and I fell asleep. Okay? Now let's see another sentence. She was very stressed by today's test. Also, you're talking about how she was feeling in terms of like mood, you know? Ella estaba, he was very stressed, muy estresada by today's test, por el examen de hoy. Okay, so you're using the imperfect past because you're describing how she was feeling, okay, stressed, interested, tired. Okay, if you're talking about that stuff, then you gotta use the imperfect past in Spanish. And now we have this verb, to go. To go means ir in Spanish, okay? And this is the way you have to conjugate this verb using the indefinite past. Yo fui, tú fuiste, él fue, ella fue, nosotros fuimos, ustedes fueron, ellos or ellas fueron, okay? Here's the way you have to conjugate it according to each personal pronoun, okay? And now let's see some sentences. If you want to say, I went to the bank, then in Spanish you gotta say, yo fui al banco. Yo fui al banco. You're talking about, again, recent past. So if you're talking about that, recent past, then you gotta use the indefinite past. Yo fui al banco. I went to the bank. Here we have another sentence. She was very rude. Okay, you're talking about the behavior someone had. So if you want to describe that, then you gotta use the indefinite past. She was, ella fue, very rude, muy grosera. She was very rude. Ella fue muy grosera. If you want to describe how the attitude of someone was, then you also gotta use the indefinite past. She was very rude. Ella fue muy grosera. Or she was very attentive. Ella fue muy atenta. Or stuff like that, okay? And now let's see how you have to conjugate this verb. To go, ir, but using the imperfect past, okay? This would be the conjugation according to each personal pronoun in Spanish. Yo iba. Tú ibas, él iba, ella iba, nosotros íbamos, ustedes iban, ellos or ellas iban. Okay, this would be the conjugation using the imperfect past. And let's see some sentences. Here, we're talking about something that happened some while ago. You are kind of remembering how something was some years ago. So here in this sentence, you have, I went very early to school. You're talking about how something was some years ago. This is not recent past. This is more like a long while ago past. Okay, so if you want to say, when I was little, this is getting implied, this part of like, when I was little, I went to school very early. Okay, so if you want to say this, you have to use the imperfect past, and the translation in Spanish would be, yo iba, I went, yo iba, very early, muy temprano, very early, muy temprano, to school, a la escuela. Okay, you're talking about how something was some while ago. Okay, yo iba muy temprano a la escuela. It's getting implied, when I was little, I went very early to school. Then when you are implying something that happened some years ago, like very while ago, then you gotta use the imperfect past and Spanish, okay? Yo iba muy temprano a la escuela. I went very early to school, okay? Now I have this sentence. And in this type of sentence, you have, he was going to invite me to the movies. Okay? In this sentence, this was going to, okay, means iba. He was about to do this, but it didn't happen, okay? And this is when you have to use the imperfect past. He was going to invite me to the movies. It was about to happen, but it didn't happen. When you're talking about those type of situations, then you have to use the imperfect past, okay? He was going to invite me to the movies. This means in Spanish, él me iba a invitar al cine. He was going to, él me iba, he was going to, él me iba invite me to the movies. A invitar al cine. Okay? And now we have this verb. This verb is to have. To have means tener. Tener. So first, let's see how you have to conjugate this verb in the indefinite past, okay? The conjugation of this verb would be yo tuve, tú tuviste, él tuvo, ella tuvo, nosotros tuvimos, ustedes tuvieron, ellos or ellas tuvieron, okay? This would be the conjugation in the indefinite past. And now let's see this sentence. If you want to say, my mom had a problem, then you gotta say, mi mamá, my mom, mi mamá had, tuvo, this is in the indefinite past, a problem, un problema, okay? You are referring also to a recent past, okay? Some while ago, my mom had a problem. It's recently, okay? You're not talking about like a long while ago, many years ago. No, you're talking about a recent past, like yesterday or 2 days ago or 1 week ago, okay? It's recent past. Mi mamá tuvo un problema. My mom had a problem, okay? Indefinite past. And now I have this sentence. My sister had 2 kids, okay? My sister had 2 kids, then you have to use also the indefinite past. Mi hermana tuvo 2 hijos. Mi hermana tuvo dos hijos. If you're talking about this stuff, then you gotta use also the indefinite past. Okay? Now I have this other sentence in the indefinite past. My sister had a very difficult childhood, okay? In this case, then you have to use the indefinite past. Tuvo. Your sister, I said my, sorry, it's your sister. Tu hermana, your sister had, tuvo, a very difficult childhood. Una infancia muy difícil, okay? You're describing how the childhood of someone was in the past. So in this case, you gotta use the indefinite past. Had, tuvo, okay? This is a fact. Also, when you're talking about facts, then you gotta use the indefinite past, okay? Now let's see how you have to conjugate this verb, have, in the imperfect past, okay? Tener. And the conjugations would be yo tenía, tú tenías, él tenía, ella tenía, nosotros teníamos, ustedes tenían, ellos or ellas tenían. And here you have to use this imperfect past when you're talking about, like, when you are describing how someone was physically in the past, then you gotta use the imperfect past. Okay, here we have this sentence. Your sister had long hair. You are describing how the sister was in the past. Okay, if you are describing that, then you gotta use the imperfect past. Tenía. Tu hermana, your sister, tu hermana had, tenía long hair, el cabello largo. Okay, if you're describing how someone was in the past, then you gotta use the imperfect past, okay? Tu hermana tenía el cabello largo. Now we have this other sentence, okay? Your dad had brown eyes. Okay, if you want to say, mi papá tenía los ojos cafés. My dad, mi papá, had, imperfect past, tenía brown eyes, los ojos cafés. You are describing how someone was, so then you gotta use the imperfect past, tenía, okay? Now we have this sentence also in the imperfect past. Here we have, Mike had a very cute smile. You are describing how the smile of Mike was, so then you gotta use the imperfect past. Mike tenía, Mike had, a very cute smile. Una sonrisa muy linda. Okay? Now we have this verb to cry. So let's see how you have to conjugate this verb. To cry, llorar, using the indefinite past, okay? This would be the conjugations. Yo lloré, tú lloraste, él lloró, ella lloró, nosotros lloramos, ustedes lloraron, ellos or ellas lloraron. And here we have this sentence, okay? My friend cried all night. Also, you're talking about recent past, so you gotta use indefinite past. Mi amiga, my friend, cried, lloró all night, toda la noche, okay? So if you're talking about recent past, remember, indefinite past you gotta use, okay? Now we have this sentence. They cried at their wedding function, okay? So if you want to say this in Spanish, you gotta say, ellos lloraron, they cried, ellos lloraron at their wedding function, en su boda, okay? Ellos lloraron en su boda. They cried at their wedding function. This is in the indefinite past because you're talking about also a recent past, okay? And now we have the imperfect past of the verb to cry, llorar, and the conjugation would be yo lloraba, tú llorabas, él lloraba, ella lloraba, nosotros llorábamos, ustedes lloraban, ellos or ellas lloraban, okay? This would be the imperfect past. And here we have some sentences. She cried a lot when she was little, okay? Again, you are having that phrase when she was little, when she was young, when you have all those types of phrases, then that means you gotta use the imperfect past, okay? Ella lloraba, she cried, ella lloraba a lot, mucho, when she was little, de chiquita, when she was little, okay? So when you have this de chiquita, when she was little, then that means you have to use the imperfect past, okay? And now we have this sentence. They cried of happiness. Ellas lloraban de felicidad. Okay, here you're describing why they were crying, so then you gotta use this verb to cry in the imperfect past. Ellas lloraban de felicidad. They cried of happiness, or they cried of pain. Ellas lloraban de pena or de dolor, of pain. Okay, so if you're explaining like why they were crying of happiness, of sadness, of whatever, then you gotta use lloraban in the imperfect past. Alright guys, so that's all for today's lesson. I really hope it helped you, and thanks so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Bye!